and welcome to Android Design in Action. My name is Roman Nurik.
Hi, I'm Nick Butcher.
And to your right is Mike.
Hi, my name is Mike Denny. This is my first Android Design in Action. I'm excited to be a part of it. I just joined Google a couple weeks ago as a design advocate for developer relations.
Yeah, so pretty soon, hopefully you guys are going to see a bunch of material, design bites and things like that, coming from Mike. He's a very talented speaker, an awesome guy. So look forward to hearing from Mike very soon.
Yeah, welcome Mike.
Yeah, welcome.
Hope to see you on the show more in the future.
Great to be here.
So in today's episode of Android Design in Action, we're going to be looking at a couple of our favorite apps, and actually not just us, but members from the larger Android team, specifically some of the designers on the team, are going to be looking at some of their favorite design aspects of their favorite apps. So
hopefully we're going to give you some little sprinkles of inspiration of things that we love to see in apps, and hopefully give you some ideas of the kind of elements that you can include in your apps to make them equally compelling.
Absolutely. So without further ado, let's get to it. So the app I want to talk about is Foursquare. Now, I'm sure a lot of you folks out there are familiar with Foursquare. You probably use it every day. But I just wanted to point out a couple of specific design features that I really love about this app. Now, specifically, I'm going to do a search for something like pizza and see what comes up, and I'll talk through the process. So, first, I'm going to go ahead and enter this search field. I'm going to start typing pizza, and actually before I type anything, you'll notice that I have a couple of different suggestions, a couple of different categories of food or I guess of places that I can look in, which is great. But I'm going to go ahead and type pizza. You'll notice that immediately, it gives me a bunch of common search, common searches. So, you have pizza, Pizza Hut, pizza place, and so on. I'm just going to go ahead and choose pizza. Now, once I get into here, this is really the meat of what I want to talk about, no pun intended. So on the left here, and this is a tablet UI, on the left you have the list of search results, and on the right you have this map. So this is kind of a very common two-pane view for lists of search results. Now, the most interesting thing here, I guess, is what happens with the actual list of search results. Now, if you look on the left here, you'll notice that it's not just the title and the category or the title and the photo. There's actually a lot of information compressed into the small space. So, for example, Amici's East Coast Pizzeria here, you see that it's a $1 sign. It's got a couple of friends of mine that have been there. It shows this to me immediately in the form of avatars. It actually shows my photos or the photos of my friends that have been here, which is a really nice signal that, hey, this is important. This may be a really good result. And it actually kind of brings up the score, the rating of the restaurant as well. So if I scroll through here, you notice that the information hierarchy is very clear. The very first thing you see, the very most obvious thing in the search results is the photo, right? But after your eye glances at the photo, you immediately take a look and start processing the other information on the screen, things like the title, the type, the category, and then who's been there. Now, so that's kind of one of my favorite pieces of this app. Is it really has so much. It really communicates so much in a very interesting way. Really quickly, I wanted to point out that the typography here is very good. The information hierarchy is further complemented by the use of things like Roboto Light. So, for example, pizza, 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 Italian, Italian, and so on. These categories are kind of repetitive. It's not adding too much to my sense of what this place is about, and so it's actually using a slightly lighter font to take less or to distract me less while I'm looking at the different search results. So the other nice thing I wanted to point out real quick is, let's say I've seen this first page of results and I start scrolling down. Now, usually when you start scrolling in a set of search results, it means that you haven't yet found what you wanted to find. So as I start scrolling, you'll notice that this bar at the bottom pops up that says, hey, you know what, if you haven't found what you want yet, maybe you're looking for something else. Try searching for food, dinner, Italian, or lunch, or things like that. And so these kind of contextual cues are really important to kind of overall making the search results and search experience really key. There are obviously other nice things involved here, like as I touch items in the map, they focus in on the left in this list. But these are really some of my favorite features. This information hierarchy, this kind of bottom bar that shows up at the bottom. Overall, this is just a great search results experience in the Foursquare app.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and I'm going to tell you about things I really like about the Airbnb app. First of all, what's great is that you can jump right in. You don't have to sign in or sign up. You can immediately start looking at the content and enjoying it. And the content is just beautiful. We have full bleed images and beautiful typography. The key information is there at a glance, which is the price, of course. And once you drill into the details, same thing. It's beautifully laid out. The transition is satisfying to look at for a few seconds. And you can swipe through and really quickly get all the information that you need about a particular place. Call to action, very obvious. And also lots of sharing options. So if you're trying to make a decision about where to stay with other people, very easy to get to that. For something that's supposed to be work, this makes it a lot more fun and enjoyable.
Hi everybody, my name is Marco. I'm an Android designer and I lead a set of different applications that we work on Android design, in particular Google Play. So today I'm going to be talking to you about a new application that we have just finished working on and has just been released, which is Newsstand, and we're very proud about. We're just going to be looking into some details that I really like. So here's the Newsstand application. It's a typical Play application. It has a side drawer with all the sections. And we've built these very beautiful cards as you sign in order to tell you what the experiences are about, what My News is about, what Read Now is about, etc. And you can just dismiss them, and we have a nice animation. Everything feels very fluid. Let me get to another detail that I really like. These are all my sources. It's a mix between sources that I follow, like The Verge, and topics. Every topic has a different color. Look, Google Play is blue, Google is red, architecture at the bottom is purple. So let me open that one in particular. You see the action bar changes color according to the topic where I'm in. And we spend a lot of time doing it right, and actually all the rendering is done dynamically. And then look when I edge swipe and I open the drawer, the action bar color itself back into the application color, and this is very nice. It's a detail we spent a lot of time doing it. Let me do it again. You see the color just merges into the application's color. I'm going to look into another detail. Let's check the sources instead. Let's check The Verge. There you go. This is The Verge. You see that we wanted to give to a particular source a very emotional feeling. So you have an image which is in the background, and with a sort of Kern Burns effect is fading out different images. It feels very much alive. And as soon as I scroll up the view, the logo moves right into its position and the source name shows up. And that's another detail that we spent a lot of time doing it right, and we think it really distinguishes the application, this application from other. Let's look at another detail. Let's look at the article view. We have developed a lot of different layouts so that the articles feel very unique and beautiful on all devices. I'm going to look at the New York Times, which is a source that we worked with in details. So you see that in the New York Times you have all your news as for everything else, but the font in the New York Times is personalized. It's the New York Times font. It's not the simple, it's not Roboto as we use it elsewhere. So we try to make every application, every source, to be different from one another and to be very specific. So when you look at the Financial Times, it has a different font, and so on and so forth. So we invite actually the developer to try to play with different fonts if they have them available. So see this detail here. This news right now is metered. So I only have 18 free articles that I can read today. And if I want to read it, I can just swipe up the page, and you see the number is changing into 10. And when I reaches the end, there you go. Now the page is unlocked, and now I can scroll it and I can finally read it. That's something else we spent quite a bit of time doing it. And every layout is really beautiful. Let me show you a couple of my favorite articles that I have saved here. This is an article about a new car, the Stingray. They just came out. See, when you're in article view, the action bar disappears as soon as you get into the article. and it's full of beautiful photos everywhere that we get from the source. Now check this out. We want to have the view to be full screen and to be very immersive, so I don't see the action bar when I'm navigating through the page, but as soon as I pull this down, the action bar comes back. But I haven't finished. Look when I get all the way up. The action bar becomes transparent as it reaches the end, and it wants to melt with the rest of the view and not feel like a color thing on top of the view. So these are just some of the examples that we've worked on in order to make this application feel special, feel immersive, and feel very different from a lot of other applications we've built so far. It has very individual patterns that we invite everybody to play with so that we can have more patterns, more differentiation, and better application across the Android platform. Thanks.
Hi, the app that I have selected to talk about is Chrome, the browser, and in particular I'd like to talk about some of the gestures that they use in the application. So here I am in Chrome app looking at a particularly interesting playlist on YouTube, and you can see from the little free up here just next to the URL bar that I have 3 tabs open. So I can just go right ahead and tap that button and I'll get into the tab management UI, but another more interesting way of doing this is using a gesture. You can see that when I tap that free, the bar itself animates down, kind of shifts down, kind of implying spatially how you might kind of bootstrap the knowledge of this gesture. So what you can do is you can drag it down and to enter the same UI here from the bar. So a few things about how they've done this gesture I think work really, really well. Firstly, I always feel in control of it. So as I drag down, it kind of tracks my finger so I can move down and up, and I always feel very much in control of what's going on. And the second thing is that it's very contextual. So if I was on, say, this bottom tab here, as I drag down, it maintains the order of my tabs, but tracks my finger. So again, I always feel very much in control, and it retains the context of where I've come from. You can also do some things like dragging sideways on it to switch the tabs here. So again, it's maintaining that kind of spatial model, so I know I can move on easily to them. My favorite thing I think about this is just the element of whimsy. As per the Android design guidelines, you should be aiming to delight your users in surprising ways. This task you're kind of doing, the goal, I guess, is managing tabs, is switching between tabs, closing a tab. Could be seen as kind of a chore, something you're forcing the user to do, but by introducing a really satisfying way of doing it, it actually makes it more delightful. So the action here, say dragging down and then swiping away, is kind of much more visceral, using direct manipulation to actually grab the content and manipulate it, rather than operating machinery to perform the task, I think is really, really great. So yeah, that was gestures in Google Chrome. Great job, and think about how you might use similar kind of gestures to make tasks more kind of like directly manipulated and more fun. Cheers.
Hi, this is Rich Fulcher on the Android design team, and I'm here today to talk about an app that I've been using for a couple of years now called Libra. Libra is an app that is used to help you keep track of your weight. It does a lot of things that I like. It does things like prompting you every day with a notification to kind of enter your weight, so those positive little reminders like that. But the thing I wanted to focus on today is the way that Libra visualizes the data that the user enters over time, and how it can kind of respond to different scales of time when showing that data. So in the typical view for Libra, you're seeing a graph of your most recent weights that you've entered within the application. So here I've got a couple of weeks worth of content here, and for every day I'm just seeing kind of a small orange dot that represents kind of what the value on the particular day was, and they've got the gray lines connecting it to the average, which is a trend line that's rolling back across several days of data. It also does some forecasting, so you get this kind of line to the right hand side here that's kind of predicting if you continue the way you've been doing and managing your meals, your weight should go in that direction. What Libra does that's really kind of well implemented and smoothly done is, if I decide to shift this time scale, so maybe I want to go back and I look across a slightly wider scope of time. As I do that, the way that the data is being reflected actually changes. So now those orange circles have dropped away. I still have the gray bars, so I can still get a sense of what those individual day values were, but that's honestly just less important in this view. And if I keep squeezing out a little further, the gray lines themselves disappear, and I'm really just looking at trend over time. It also, in addition to kind of doing the two-finger gestures, I can do tap to snap to different time scales. So tap once and then tap again to kind of get closer and closer, and you'll see it moves through those different views, and there's even little shortcuts for moving to kind of the current day view and matching that. So a neat small app, something I maybe spend less than 30 seconds with each day, but still does a really good job of considering kind of what the user goals are at any instant. You know, if I'm in the moment of putting in that one value, it's giving me a real detailed view for a short range. But as I start to go further and further out to look for a wider set of data, it really adapts and kind of simplifies the views so that only the most pertinent things to the user are displayed, and I can kind of quickly glance and read and understand what's happening. So that's Libra. Recommended. Thanks.
So the app I'm going to be talking about today is Timely by the awesome guys at Bitspin. So Timely, if you've been following Android design, if you've seen this show, we've talked about it before. It's been discussed a lot on different platforms because it's just a fantastic example of Android design, and it just really encapsulates a lot of the design principles in the Android design guide. Especially principles around the idea that our Android devices should enchant us. And I'm specifically going to be talking about things that stand out in this app that just show that they went the extra mile. They have just an awesome level of polish in this app. And this kind of polish isn't just, you know, the fundamental things in your app are working. Timely, for example, is a clock, a timer, a stopwatch, and I use it as an alarm to wake me up in the morning. So all that stuff behaves as expected, but it's the extra little details. It's the tiny animations that are just gorgeous, and the use of color, the use of typography throughout the app. It's that extra 1% effort that really makes a huge difference in the overall quality of your app experience. So like I mentioned, it's a clock, and if you look at the seconds animating here, and even responding to my touch, it's just a perfect example in dozens of places in this app that real objects are more fun than buttons and menus. So just up here, I mean, at first glance, this looks like it doesn't look like a traditional Android app, right? It doesn't have a solid color action bar with a light or dark theme throughout. It's bright, it's colored, it's got this live wallpaper thing going on in the background. But it behaves like an Android app, and that makes the beautiful aesthetic that they've gone with just that much better. When you page between the different colors, they kind of crossfade, and all of these elements are touchable. They're very inviting. You don't have to be told explicitly what to do. For example, you just hit the play button and it starts counting down from the time I set for it. And if you're interacting with it and you get a little bit off track and you start dragging here, you notice that it tilts. And so that's kind of curious, right? And so if you go down to the split action bar on the bottom and tap the stopwatch button, you notice that the timer actually flips end over end. And so that kind of gives me the cue that I can just flip it using a gesture, and I don't even have to worry about the button down here. And that's just a lot more fun. When there are things that are a little bit harder to communicate to a new user, for example, like how to drag from the edge here to create a new alarm, it's gently taught. So I can swipe from the edge of the screen and pull in a new alarm and set it for 6:30, and I have that nice pulse to interact with. It shows me here that I can tap below to increment or tap above to reduce the time. And when I'm done, I just hit done at the top. And there I've set an alarm, and it's just awesome. So I can move it up and down, very interactive throughout the app. So just again, I want to emphasize that this is that extra 1% of effort that just makes it possible to delight your users, surprise your users, because they're, it's not generic. Things in your app that just make them smile, make you think, oh, somebody thought of that. That extra % of effort is going to make a lot of difference and have that polish that will really make a great experience for your users.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with Etsy, it's essentially an online marketplace for handmade goods. So you can browse the various goods that are available and then of course purchase and have them delivered to you. So let me go ahead and open up this application. I've just downloaded it and installed it from Google Play, so I haven't run it before. And you'll notice immediately I'm shown content. So I'm not thrown up into any sort of roadblocks, no tutorial, no login required. I just immediately see these sort of trending items on Etsy. So I think that's really great, and I'm pretty sure Nick Butcher would be pretty happy with this onboarding flow. Now if I scroll down, you'll notice that there's sort of this staggered grid view layout of the various items. And I really like this as well. It really means that instead of a sort of traditional square kind of grid, it means that the images don't need to be cropped quite so much to get them down into that square. So you can see more of the images, like this one on the left here, this back sweater rather. You can see more of the image there. It fits nicer onto the screen. The other great thing about this layout is it will work very well across different screen sizes. So I think on phone in portrait, they just show one column, but then as the screen size gets bigger, they move to multiple columns. So I think it's really nice. Another thing worth mentioning is you'll see here, and it's kind of hard to notice as I scroll through, but the placeholder images that they show before the image actually fades in. Now these images are just loading so fast, it's really hard to see. Okay, here we go. You'll notice there's sort of a composite of the image that's eventually going to load there. So for example, this ornament, which is sort of primarily sort of green and brown, it was sort of a green-brown combination shade of color. So I'll scroll down a little bit more so you can see a few more. So I really like that. There you go, you can see a bit better. Now their touch feedback as well, it's very subtle. You can see here. It actually fits in very nicely with the updated recommendations after Android 4.4 KitKat was announced. So that's quite nice as well. One of my favorite things actually of this app is, I'm about to show you now, is as you open the drawer, you'll notice they kind of blur out the actual content here. I think this is a really nice design flourish, and it really sort of helps to put the focus on the drawer which just popped open. So if I close it again, the images just fade back into being nice and clear again. And it's great because they actually blur whatever the content was that was on the screen at the time. So here, let me do it again. Quite nice. Now, if you try and like something, so I'm going to tap this little heart here in one of the corners. Now, at this point, you do need to sign up or sign in. They've got a clear button that says not now, so if you don't want to go down that path, you can just click that and continue on your way. But if you do want to sign in, you can just continue on with this flow, sign in appropriately. And they also use that blurred out effect here again, and I think it just looks really nice. Popping quickly into the details screen. So this is an item that I'm sure many of you will be interested in, tortoise cozy, yes. So again, this layout, it's very focused on the content. There's not a lot of system UI going on here. It's just the action bar, a description, and sort of the key actions there, either in the action bar or within the actual layout. And then as you sort of scroll down the description, you'll see this sort of additional images pop up from the bottom. These are sort of other items from this particular seller. So if you are really into getting turtle cozies, you can see here you've got plenty to look through. So that's it. I just thought this was a fantastic app. Check it out. Thanks very much.
So those were some of our favorite design details and some of our favorite apps. We hope that you guys drew some inspiration from some of the things we talked about today. And that's all we have for this week's episode. As always, I'm your host, Roman Nurik.
And I'm Nick Butcher.
And I'm Mike Denny.
Till next time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.